Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's the Darkest Timeline podcast. There'll be stuff from the last week, there'll be games, movies, TV, that's if I've done any of that in the last week, and might even be some talk about going to the gym. All the good stuff that you guys tune in for. If you're not watching on YouTube, then please go over to YouTube and check us out. Like I say, there is a YouTube channel, and it'd be super cool if you would subscribe and tell a friend and get them to subscribe. Got to get those subscriptions up, people, and the only way to do that is word of mouth, telling people how great Cookiecast is and how great the podcasts are and how great the videos are. So, if you could do that, I would appreciate it. So here we go. This is Cookiecast, the Darkest Timeline podcast. Right. Ooh. You know something? I moved that 3 different times. Then when I actually sit back in position, nowhere near. How about that one? Let's remove you. Do that. Hello, it's me. Right, let's get the housekeeping done. I know you're wondering, and I'm not gonna make you wait. I am still technically ill. What I would say is that it would probably be considered low level at this point. Apparently that cable won't go over there. It's still the remnants of a cold, but it's barely registering now. You will notice there'll be sniffing and I'm sure some coughing and sneezing and all sorts of stuff. But it's less, let's say. So yeah, take each day as it comes. This week's podcast is going to be ever so slightly different to other podcasts. Because I don't have a lot to talk about from the week of stuff. I've got a couple of. I want to talk about a couple of podcasts that I've been listening to. I've got some TV, a couple of movies, a couple of games, and you never know, one of those might be a virtual reality title. And it's one of those things. It's not that I haven't done anything. I did various things at the weekend. I've done various things over the course of the week. I coded a podcast yesterday, and it was yet another one of those examples where I've coded a podcast and just cringed throughout the whole thing. It was, me talking for 20 minutes about alpha males. It's one of those things, you get people who are like, oh, I hate the sound of my own voice. You get people like, oh no, I don't want to have to listen to myself. You get people that don't listen to podcasts that they've been on. You get people that don't listen to podcasts at all, even though they're on them. You get people who are like, oh, I listened to that one because I wasn't on it. And then you get people who are like, oh, I listened to that one. It's like, you were there. You were on that podcast. Oh yeah, I just wanted to know what it sounded like. So you get various different things. But I really struggle with, it's obviously something that I feel very passionately about at the time. Unfortunately, a month later, that might not be the same. Or listening to myself bitch, moan and complain for 20 minutes, which I was trying not to do. It's really off-putting.
They've got like various podcast things going on at the moment. Dropped a podcast, not through anything other than the NFL season has finished, so that's gone. So you look for something to fill the gap. I booked a podcast for the back end of this week, completely forgetting that I was not available to do that podcast. There's been, trying to fit other ones in, trying to get something going, all this, that, and the other. And then I've hit this sort of technical, I don't know what to call it. The podcast started a million years ago with a laptop and a microphone, and that was enough. And then, as these things go, it wasn't enough. And we had to look at, ways to push it. So then we added a camera with like a fixed camera angle. And it's like, I've got to get absolutely everything into this one camera angle. And you have to, work around that. And then it was like, maybe get another camera and maybe get another microphone, because then you can have, better sound quality. And the sound quality was really good running off two microphones. I'm running two microphones now, even though it's just me. And the cameras got more and more and more. There was a point where we hit 5 cameras. I know people who watch on YouTube will be like, I've never seen a 5th angle. There's a reason for that. The 5th camera, the short version is it was secondhand, and the battery in it was dead, and it wouldn't run off a power source, so it was useless essentially. So, the podcast, the technical side of the podcast grew and grew and grew. When we switched to 2 microphones, we had to get additional software to run 2 microphones. The software that I use for video editing, it's very frequently updated, but it's one of those things that you often find with updates, it just gets worse. And then every now and then there'll be an update that is an improvement. So, you move along and you build and you improve and stuff. Hit a point now where, for those of you that watch on YouTube, you'll have noticed that we've changed location for podcast recording. And the eagle-eyed of you will notice that we've actually gone back a location. Original, way back when podcasts were originally recorded in one place, then we moved to a different place, then we moved back to the original place. I can only presume that when we were originally recording in here, where I'm recording now, it was at a time that there was only one microphone, which would probably make sense. Add in the second microphone, where you think, oh yeah, that's going to be even better. There have been situations, scenarios and times where it hasn't been better. It's actually been a bit of a detriment. And I don't know why that is. I presume it's an acoustics thing. But the possibility of reaching a point in time where some of the technology that we have is not cutting it. So I've spent an extensive amount of time looking at ways to improve that side of things. I've also been doing some stuff around improving certain camera angles. I've not been a massive fan of some of the angles that I've been using recently, so I've been trying to make changes there. Did a podcast on Saturday that was at a different location, and that was a long time of me setting that up. You can guarantee that I will not have hit the angles that I wanted to. So I had no intention of talking about this. That's not strictly true. I had a little bit of an intention, but not to talk about it this much. But this week I'm going to make a journey to go and see some people about some ways to improve our audio setup, and then I will look at making a decision from there. Stay tuned, I guess. I'm sure if we make a change, you'll know about it, that in theory the quality should improve, and I'm sure I'll talk about it. So I think I went off topic, as Sam would say. I didn't want to rant on this week, so I'm going to focus more on the entertainment stuff. However, I have got one thing that I wanted to talk about. I think last week I cryptically mentioned that I was working towards something. This is one of those things that this might not be what you guys want to hear me talk about, but this podcast serves various different purposes, and you know, I'm going to talk about this. So the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that's not a long time, I'm fully aware of that. I have been attempting to get my diet under control. I set a point in time where I said that is the final point in time for anything remotely bad. Past that point in time, it's got to be clean living. So I set that point in time, and that point came and that point went, and from there I focused on trying to eat better. Now, for some reason, and I don't know what it is, a little while ago I attempted to do a ketogenic diet. It's difficult as a vegetarian, and I tried it, and it had X amount of results. But then I got so far and then started looking into a ketogenic diet a little bit further, and there was a lot of stuff around ketogenic diets that only really work for certain types of people. I got very disheartened with it, as with a huge number of diets that I've done in the past. I got quite disheartened, and I moved away from it. I didn't want to be restricted to, you can't eat this because it's got carbs in, you can't eat that because it's got carbs in. There are diets out there that tell you that you shouldn't restrict things. You should eat certain things, just eat in the right way, or whatever the hell that means. So, as far as the keto stuff was concerned, I just let that go, basically. I don't know why, and I don't know for what reason, I don't know what the logic in my head is, but my brain was like, you need to lean away from carbohydrates. On this new diet regime, don't for a minute say that you're doing a ketogenic diet, but you need to lean heavily away, almost run away from carbohydrates. But at the same time, don't stop yourself from eating carbohydrates. Sounds complicated. I think it was like a cut down heavily on carbs kind of thing. So that's what I did. And I focused a lot on trying to listen to my body a bit more, the cues. So, for example, it's X time a day, a meal time, it's breakfast, lunch or tea time. Am I hungry? And if the answer was, no, I don't feel like my stomach's not rumbling, then maybe I didn't need that meal. So I tried that, and that sort of started to work. And obviously, no bad food. I can't say that I had no bad food. I allowed myself at times where I was like, oh man, I just need a little bit of something. Have a little bit of something. Especially if it was on a day where I could genuinely say, I have missed a meal today. So you take that meal could have been 500 calories. That means that I can eat something that's 200 calories. So, trying to get it to even out. So week 1 came and went. I was like, right, Monday's my day. I'm going to weigh myself on Monday. So I did that for a week. Weighed myself day 1, and a week later I stepped on the scales. And I lost 5 pounds in a week doing that. So that was a week ago. Like I say, this is super short, sort of short time. So here's where things get a little sketchy. I was doing real well, I was working my way through the week. And then over the weekend, there was 2 separate points in time where massive amount of carbohydrates were presented to me. So basically one of those was, here's a French stick. And I'm like, oh man, what the freaking hell am I going to do with this? It's like, I've not had, I think on the day I'd not had breakfast or lunch. So what I did was, I was like, right, okay, I've not had breakfast or lunch, so I can have like a French stick sandwich, not eat anything for the rest of the day, and that will balance itself out. That's kind of the way I'm trying to work stuff at the moment. I went out Saturday night, was presented with more carbohydrates, which I turned down. I was like, no thank you, I'm trying to reduce my carbohydrate intake. I've had carbohydrates today. I am good, thank you. Yesterday, here's where things got real sketchy. Yesterday, I'm like, man, I am hungry. Think about it, I'd had a sandwich, and I did have a little bit more of the French stick when I got in. But that was a different, was it a different day? Anyway, whatever. So Sunday morning I get up, I'm like, oh man, I'm hungry. Oh man, I want something. I want, and it's this thing, this reliance on bread. I'm like, man, I don't want bread. But every which way I turned, it was like bread. I'm like, man, it's like what I need is like some sausages that have already been cooked. At which point I remembered that there were some sausages that had already been cooked. There was only a couple, but I ate those and I was like, that should do me. But it didn't cut it. So I'm like, I felt like my only option was to have a sandwich. I have this thing where I'm like, I try to eat protein. So I'm trying to eat protein. So, there are days where I'm like, I'll have some eggs. I'll have like, work have started doing like veggie sausages in the canteen. So I'll get some eggs, I'll get some veggie sausages, I'll get some mushrooms for a bit of something different. Load of protein, and first thing on the morning after I've been to the gym on the night, and that does that. So that's fine. But when I was younger, I was allergic to dairy products. Absolute friggin' nightmare for a child. But what that led to was, further down the line, I kind of grew out of it. But I can't eat a lot of eggs. So I have to have like, a couple of days of eggs and then a day off. Try to keep the levels of eggs down. So what I wanted to do yesterday morning was have some eggs. It was a point in time where I was like, I should probably not have eggs. So I ended up making a sandwich. Now, I didn't want to eat a sandwich. So that in itself wasn't a great start. And I made this sandwich. And I was like, okay. And I sat down to eat the sandwich. And I ate half the sandwich. And I was like, I really didn't want this sandwich. But the other thing was, I was struggling to eat it. I was struggling to get through it. And I'm like, 2 weeks ago, I'd have thrown this down my neck and been, wanting more. But I don't know what it is, but like at this point in time, I was proper struggling to eat that sandwich. Managed to eat it. It was in the middle of the afternoon, and ultimately I didn't have anything to eat for the rest of the day, and that was that. Went to the gym. We'll talk about the gym. But again, another day where it was like, I've had carbs, but I haven't eaten anything else. I've had those couple of sausages. So today's Monday. So I got up this morning and I'm like, fingers crossed, I'm going to see another £5. That's going to be £10 in 2 weeks. And then I can start saying to people, I've been watching what I eat for 2 weeks and I've lost £10. It's the best part of a stone. That's what I was secretly hoping for. But in the back of my head, I was like, all that carb's gonna be my downfall, especially at the back end of the week, where I haven't had quite as much opportunity to burn it off. Got up this morning, eagerly went into the bathroom, got the scales, got them set up, stood on them, and here's the thing. I was really disappointed. And the reason I was really disappointed was because I'd lost £3 since last week. And that was that. And I've spent all day today going, I'm so disappointed. You know, I've really been watching what I've been eating. I've really been, trying to be focused, not eating bad stuff. I've been hitting the gym. I've been doing the cardio. I've been increasing the weight. I've been doing exercise, certain exercises that I've not been doing because I've been trying to increase, all of this. And I only lost £3. But then I got to a point where I was like, well, that's £8 in 2 weeks. Is that something to be proud of? And I was thinking back to where I was a couple of years ago. It was probably more like 3 years ago now. When I first lost all of the weight, that's how I refer to it. I lost, I think in total it was something in the region of like 12 stone from start to finish. The last stone and a half of that was not lost in a super healthy way. It was lost in a really unhealthy way. But I'm counting it. So there was a point where I told people I'd lost 10 stone. And then I probably lost another couple either side. It's a really long story. But I used to weigh myself every Monday. I used to go to Boots in town, go on the electronic scales, take off as much clothing as I could, and weigh myself. And I'm pretty sure in those days, I was like, oh, I've lost £3. £3 is good. At least I think so. So I was like, it's a disappointment. I'm disappointed, but maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I'm being too hard on myself. I wanted to sit here this evening and say, hey, I lost £10. I wanted to tell people today that I'd lost £10 in 2 weeks. And I'd done it in a kind of healthy way. I know that there are people out there now that are going, it's not healthy to not eat. Excuse me. But do you remember all those times where I said the best diet for you is the diet that works? And I'm not saying, jump on the anorexia or the bulimia because, it works. The best diet for you is the diet that you can stick to. And I don't know if I'm going to stick to this. I know that I've run away from certain foods. I've been offered pizza twice in 3 days. And I turned it down both times. And I actually went really far out of my way to avoid it one of the two times. It's a big thing. I love pizza. And like I say, we'll talk about the gym towards the back end. So I've got mixed feelings. I don't know if that's true. I feel disappointed. And I know if I was to sort of tell somebody, they'd be like, "Why are you disappointed? You've lost weight." I feel like I failed. And if I lose 3 pounds a week for the next X number, however many weeks, to lose the weight that I need to lose now, it's going to take me, I can't even do the maths in my head. It's going to take me, a year to get rid of all the weight. And I know from previous encounters that there'll be points where there'll be plateaus and stuff like that. And it's just, I'm really disappointed. I feel a little bit upset. But yeah, that's the only thing I had to talk about this week. For whatever reason, for reasons previously mentioned. Right, let's talk about some other stuff. Podcasts. Weirdly, one of the podcasts that I wanted to talk about. I've been listening to American Glutton, which was kind of recommended to me by Luke, but he then went on to listen to it and was like, I hate it, I hate that podcast, it's awful. It's just people, an actor who doesn't have to go to work every day talking about how easy it is to work out. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not great. I've listened to, it's brand new, it's only started this year. There's been a few episodes. I've listened to nearly all of the ones that are available. And if I'm honest, I'm kind of enjoying it. Part of the reason that we've just had that conversation about weight loss is off the back of listening to this podcast. The principle being is that the guy who does it is a guy called Ethan Suplee. Anybody who watched My Name is Earl will know him as Randy. Anybody who's seen American History X will know him as Seth. Anybody who is a Mallrats fan will know him as the Magic Eye guy. It's not a schooner, it's a sailboat. So Ethan Suplee has been various different weights throughout his time and his career. He's been absolutely freaking massive at points. And then recently, these pictures emerged of him side by side where he was X number of years ago and what he looks like now, where he's absolutely jacked. And basically, he found a diet that worked and just started lifting weight and can now lift his own body weight or his old body weight, and he's trying to get abs. Talks about trying to get abs a lot. It's interesting to listen to. This is a guy who had drugs and alcohol problems and major weight issues, and openly talks about some of the struggles that he has had with weight, which is kind of refreshing to hear somebody who's struggled with weight and has done a multitude of different diets and has done a multitude of different things, both good and bad, and the journey that they've been on, and they've reached this point where things are better. They've got a diet that works, they've got a training plan that works, and they're now talking about it, and they're getting other people on to talk about it, they're getting doctors on to talk about things, they're talking about vegetarian keto, which obviously was quite interesting, vegan keto, keto for meat eaters, the 3 different types of keto. So that was quite interesting to listen to. And like I say, he talks extensively about the issues and the problems he's had with weight. And it's refreshing. It's refreshing to listen to. It's refreshing to hear somebody talk about weight problems. I know when Bill Burr was doing a lot of trying to get his weight down for an acting role, people followed along with what he was doing to lose weight. And people, sent him messages and commented on how it helped them to stick to their goals and their weight loss and their weight, their working out and all this, that and the other, because he talked about it every week. And this American Glutton podcast, apparently it isn't for everybody. Luke despises it. I found it okay to listen to. There is that aspect of he's an actor, so he can spend his days in the gym, and he probably has a little bit more access to a little bit more information about nutrition and stuff. When I was super into losing weight and working out and eating right, I got super into the nutrition side of things, and I really I got hungry for information about stuff. There was a point where I knew quite a lot about it all, and that information is long gone, which is a shame. It'd be probably quite useful now. American Glutton. If you want to hear a guy who's struggled for a lot of years with weight issues and who seems to have found a formula that works, there is a podcast out there for you to listen to. So there's that. That is not the only new podcast I've been listening to recently. This is potentially going to come as a bit of a shock. Does anybody remember when a while ago I was talking about the fact that I never used to listen to Your Mum's House podcasts because I'd attempted to listen to Your Mum's House and I just felt it wasn't for me. And then I picked out a load of episodes that had people I knew: Bill Burr, Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, Bert Kreischer, people that I knew that I would have been interested in listening to. I listened to those episodes and found that Your Mum's House is just hysterical. So that was that. There was another podcast that I never mentioned that I didn't listen to because I was a bit like, it's probably a bit weird that. Bert Kreischer has his own podcast. Obviously, he has other podcasts with other people, Two Bears, One Cave, the Bill and Bert podcast, but he has his own podcast. He has the Bertcast, and I never listened to it. And again, like with Your Mum's House, for a very simple reason. Any time I saw a clip of the podcast, his guest, the person he was talking to, was somebody that I didn't know who they were, and I wasn't overly interested in listening to a podcast with somebody that I didn't know, and I wasn't bothered by. However, like with Your Mum's House, I went back through the archives of the Bertcast and found, it's not surprising, that there are episodes with Christina P., Tom Segura, Bill Burr, Mark Maron, Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz. All of these people that I'm like, well, I enjoy listening to them, and I'm a fan of Bert Kreischer, so let's download those episodes. So I did, and I downloaded a shit ton. I wonder if I can just, I don't like to look stuff up, but it's right here in front of me. Right, let's have a quick head count. I've listened to a few already. I'm on episode 30. The date on that is the 18th of June 2013. What's that? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 35, 50, 60, 70, 80. Probably 30 there. I've probably got about 35 episodes to listen to. Something that I just saw that was really interesting. Why the hell have I got that? Something I just saw that was really interesting was Ralph Garman's name. Have I seen that right? Yes, I have. 2016. Episode 195, Ralph Garman. Wow. I'm currently listening to Mark Maron on the Burtcast. And you know something? After everything that I've said about Mark Maron and how he's not a great interviewer on his podcast, I'd never heard him being interviewed. And he's a really fascinating guy. Which is probably weird to say because I've listened to hundreds of Mark Maron's podcasts. But I think that he's quite a bad interviewer. Which is weird because he's had, like, hands down the best guests on his podcast. He had Barack Obama on. But he's the worst interviewer. And then him being interviewed, absolutely fascinating. So I've been listening to the Burtcast from many, many years ago. And it's hysterical to listen to stuff that... Well, I'll give you an example. There was an episode that he did one with Christina P in the very, 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 very early days of Burtcast, where he said to her 7 years ago, me and Tom were going to do a podcast together where we were going to call it Two Bears, One Cave. And I'm like, yep, and in, 6 years' time, you are doing that podcast, and it's fucking brilliant. There was an episode where he was talking about how he was currently on Travel Channel and he wished that he was always going to be on Travel Channel and he could always work with them and he just loves being with them and he always wanted to stay with them. And I was like, oh, Bert, you get fired from them very soon. This is at a point in time before the Machine story made him famous. This is before his 2 Netflix stand-up specials. It's like it's been more fascinating listening to how time has changed. As an example, they pass comment on a particular comedian, and they were like, oh, this comedian's famously well known for this. And my response was, not anymore, they're not. They're famously known for something really bad now. Stuff like that. It's like, oh, this person's well known for this. Not anymore. So yeah, the aspect of listening to something from 7 years ago and seeing what that person's life is like at that point in time and knowing all the bad stuff that's coming. But for Bert, what initially seems like bad stuff actually turned out to be good. So that there's that sort of that comfort. Just goes to show you should give things a chance. I always try and give stuff a chance, and that's how I ended up listening to half of the podcasts I listen to now. But like I say, yeah, it's quite fascinating to listen to stuff from 7 years ago. Right, let us talk about some TV. The only TV I've watched... oh, that's interesting. I haven't written down what I'm watching in the gym. The only TV I've watched in the last week is I finished Series 14 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yes, it's Series 14. I mean, it's one of those things, at the end of the day, the 14 series in, you know, they're doing well to still be going. It is suffering from the fatigue of having done 14 series. I do wonder how many more series they've got in them. Obviously, over the last few years, there's been some ups and downs cast-wise. The guy that plays Dennis, Glenn, he left for like a series and a half. Obviously, they've still got Danny DeVito at this point in time. I imagine that they're all on the sort of working on the principle, however long FX keep paying them to do it, I imagine they'll keep doing it. But you never know. It was good. There was a couple of episodes that were a bit like, meh. But then there were other episodes that were really good. They generally do manage to be fairly consistent. Really enjoyable. There was some good episodes in that series. So yeah, I'm kind of in the market for something to watch. I was flicking through Netflix at some point. Was it after It's Always Sunny? Yes, it was, because then I ended up putting a film on. So that's why. But yeah, I was like, maybe it's time for The Witcher. Maybe it's time for, I don't know. So yeah, I'm kind of in the market for something to replace It's Always Sunny. I have watched not one, but 2 movies this week. Like I say, finished It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia season 14. Was looking for something to watch. I'd had a movie recommended to me by somebody at work. And I was like, I could maybe watch that movie. I've got a little bit of time. So, did a search, found it, put it on. Film in question was the film Moneyball, which, for those of you who don't know, is a film about baseball, which for me I was a bit like, I'm not a baseball fan. But it wasn't so much about that. It was a lot to do with like statistics and how you can take a team worth almost nothing money-wise, go up against teams that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars and statistically still win. It's based on a true story. It's got Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. And freaking hell, I can't remember his name. I'm gonna have to look it up, because I tried to have this conversation the other day where I tried to tell somebody this person's name, and I know the person's name, but it has been doing my treeing. What film am I looking for? Moneyball. Moneyball. That is correct. Philip Seymour Hoffman. I knew it was a triple name, and I knew his name. I think my memory's getting, not my memory, but my brain's getting worse as time goes on. So the film's like 2 hours. I watched 45 minutes straight off the bat. And it was good. I was enjoying it. It was real good. Based on a true story. All this, based on a true story is a bit of a loose term, I often find. However, based on a true story, so it was about the, what were they called? The Athletic A's or something? Baseball team, anyway. They had no money. They got a team of people who would get them to the playoffs and get them through the playoffs, and they would win. The coach wouldn't play the team that the general manager had drafted, and so on and so forth. And they just kept losing. And then eventually they find a way to get the coach to play the team in question, and they start winning. and they do these amazing things that have never before been done in baseball. Oh, Chris Pratt's in it. A young Chris Pratt is in it. So that's that. And I was really enjoying this film. And the team got so far. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. They're going to win. And then I don't really know what happened. I don't want to spoil it in case you're planning to sit down and watch it. But there was like a bit of a twist. But the twist, I was like, so what then? All of the stuff up to this point has been pointless. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm missing something. No, didn't seem to be missing something. And then Brad Pitt's character goes to speak to someone. I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to ruin it. And Brad Pitt's character, I understand why he does what he does at the end. But from the stuff, when they flash stuff up on the screen, like this person went on to do this, and that person went to prison, and that person did this, and that person did that, and this team did this. When they flashed all the stuff up at the end, I was like, so what you're saying is that the decisions that were made at the back end of the film were really stupid decisions. And all I felt by the end of it was, I really enjoyed that film up to a certain point. And then it all became really pointless. And by the end I was like, why did they make this film? What was the reason behind this film? I get that the team in question achieved something that no baseball team has ever achieved. They were smashing records left, right and centre. But it kind of didn't matter past a certain point in the film. So I really didn't understand what the point was. I just didn't really get it. So anyway, that was Moneyball. I feel like there's been a lot of stuff in my life recently where I've been in a situation where I've been really enjoying something. And then it just turns. And then I don't enjoy it anymore. And saying that out loud, I presume that's me. Oh. So I watched another film. And that film was called Joker. Now, I'd like to say I'd watched it before all the Oscars. But I didn't, because I didn't own it. And now I do own it. And I watched it in 4K, which, it is what it is. So, going way back when they announced this film, I was like, what? Everything I'd seen about this film, I was like, what? And, there was stuff on Hollywood Babylon where they were talking about the fact that they were making like 60 different Joker films and why did we need them all. And then there was all these pictures that were released of Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, and it was very like, why the hell does he look like that? There was pictures taken from like him on the stairs. You often get these like from the set photos and all this, and these different sort of bits of clown makeup. And then they started releasing the trailers, and I would watch the trailer and be like, cool, can anybody tell me what this film's about? And then there was more trailers, and I still had no freaking clue what this film was about. And I started talking to people, and they're like, oh, what do you think's Joker? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. What's it about? Oh, I don't know. And nobody seemed to know what the film was about. And it got released, and it was, there was a lot of hype, which I tend to shy away from hype. but there was a lot of hype, and I'm like, okay. And then there was talk about the Oscars, and all the awards that run up to the Oscars, and the Joker was winning this award or that one, and it was definitely nailed on for an Oscar, and then it, I think Joaquin Phoenix, I think he won the Oscar. There was like statistics about characters from superhero stuff. In question, supervillains winning Oscars. Obviously, Heath Ledger won an Oscar. I can't think of that word. Post something or other. So I reached a point where I was like, I'm intrigued to see this film just to find out what the hell it's about. So I put it on and I watched it. And I can say this. I sat through that 2-hour movie with my mouth open for the entire film. I was just like, what is happening? It was... Let me just get this out straight off. It was a great film. It was amazing. All of the hype and everything around it and all of that, it was great. It really was. Just terrifying. Just like every scene, you were just like, oh, man, what's happening here? And the time it was set and the things that you were able to do at that time. Like there's a scene where like there's a character smoking, which nowadays, geez, they were smoking in a hospital room. It's like, even then I imagine that was frowned upon, but and yeah, there's a lot of smoking in that film, which for the time, it really goes with the time. But now it's like, to see that much smoking in a movie was like, whew, this is, it was intense. It was just awe-inspiring. It was a proper, I sat for 2 hours with my mouth open going, wow. I'm a bit mixed with Joaquin Phoenix. He's been in stuff that I've liked. He's been in stuff I've enjoyed. I think playing the Joker changes people. I think, the whole, especially like the Heath Ledger stuff, you have to go to a dark place to be able to play the Joker. And I think that he's probably gone to that dark place and come back from it. I don't overly like the way that he's sort of going about, like, accepting awards and things like that. You should probably be at least a little grateful for winning these awards and stuff. But I suppose it's all part of it. It's part of the sort of persona and stuff. Some of the other actors and actresses in it were very good. I liked the fact there was this whole thing that this was going to be a completely standalone film, to the point that it was probably going to have nothing to do with Batman. And I was like, I mean, can you even do that? It was nice to see that isn't quite the way it went, but the time it was set, and at the point in time, that was like a loophole that they could use. It was just really good. It was a really good film. If, like me, you are in a situation where you're like, I honestly don't know what that film's about, don't worry about it. Just watch it. It was really good. The discomfort you feel at various points. You know, nowadays there's less. You know, you feel less about films, but when you do feel something from watching a film, it really has that sort of impact. It was good. It was really good. It was really enjoyable. I would heartily recommend it to anybody. So if you haven't seen it and you've wondered about it, definitely give it a go. Right, so computer games. I am playing Days Gone, and that is that. It's not in a bad way. I'm not saying this in a bad way, because I feel that games suffer from the opposite, but it's the game that keeps on going. Not in a bad way. I think if this game had finished by now, I might have been a bit more on the disappointed side, whereas the fact that it's still going, I'm kind of like, cool. Now then, it has taken a little bit of a turn. I managed to get through the game all the way up to the point I am now without really having to deal with like a big horde of zombies. That's not to say that I haven't. And I have died every single time I've come across a horde of zombies that I can't avoid. But the way the game works is, if you come in contact, for example, if you come in contact with a horde of zombies and you die, when the game reloads, you won't necessarily have to deal with that horde of zombies. So I've managed to navigate through the game without having any major issues with dealing with these hordes of zombies. The game has taken a bit of a turn where there seems to be hordes everywhere. I know that part of the story is focusing on trying to stop these hordes, and I think, there's a bit where he makes a passing comment when you're out riding on the bike that there's more hordes. So I presume the two things kind of go together, but it is making the game more difficult to sort of navigate through the wilderness. Is that the right? I don't know. Throughout the world, let's say. I can tell you this much. As a game, I watch all of the cutscenes. I don't skip anything. And in this day and age, if there's an ability to skip talking, you do it. I imagine most people will skip dialogue in games. Especially like an RPG, where it's just like, often it's just reading. How dumb does that make me sound? I haven't skipped a single cutscene, which must say something. There have been a couple of cutscenes that have been really like, wow. There's this whole thing that the character you play as is a quote-unquote good guy with, I suppose, loose morals, but not quite loose morals, more like, when somebody's got a lot of morals, but that means that they then have to do things that aren't good. Like, they have to do stuff like there was a bit with I won't spoil it, but there was a bit with like an injured animal, and then that's repeated again later, but it wasn't an animal and stuff like that, and it's properly like, wow. So there's that aspect. Something the game does that I've obviously spoken before about how I really don't like the survival genre. This game has really drip-fed the upgrades. It's like, here, have a little upgrade for your troubles. It's like, can we, speed this up? Because, it's annoying not being able to have a lot of petrol on the bike and I can't carry X, Y, Z. It's like, can we hurry this up? But yeah, it really has drip-fed the upgrades. Which, obviously, now looking at the length of this game, I kind of see why. Not super great, but I do understand it. But the game does this thing every now and then. It's like, oh, do you need a certain component for things that you need to make so that you can progress in the game? Yeah, I do. All right, well, I've removed them all, so yeah. So, oh, all right, okay. Then it does this thing. You need what's called scrap. You need scrap metal to be able to repair your motorbike and keep your melee weapons in tip-top condition. So every now and then you'll be like out in the world riding around and stuff, and it'll be like, oh yeah, you need scrap for your motorbike and for your weapons. Yeah, I've taken all the scrap out of the game. It's like, okay. So there've been points where like the motorbike's died and I'm being attacked by zombies and my melee weapon's got like 15% durability or whatever. I'm like, okay, so I can't ride away and I'm probably going to break my weapon any second. Cool. I'm still playing it. I'm going to continue playing it. It's feeling a little bit like it could do, the turn that I'm always talking about. So I feel a little on edge. I had one of those situations last night where I was like, oh, I'll just do this bit and then I'll go to bed. And then like an hour later, the mission that I was doing had sort of finished. I was like, wow, misjudged that. I'm still playing it. I will play it until either I finish it or the game doesn't want me to play anymore. You know how I operate with games. That's how I operate with games. So I'll keep you posted with progress. If I finish it between now and the next time we speak, I'll give you a full review of the game. So there's that. Something that I haven't said in a very long time. Let's talk VR. Obviously, I've been talking about the fact that playing VR whilst feeling sick for whatever reason, just the two things just do not go together. Like I said at the start of the podcast, I'm not well. You can clearly hear that. I've had to blow my nose a couple of times and stuff. I'm not 100%, but I'm not dying like I was. I got to a point where I was like, man, I really want to play some VR. I wonder if I can get away with playing some VR. So I was like, I've got an idea. I'm going to play a game that I've already played and I've finished and I've played before and I've played a couple of times. I've finished it and it's a game that I'm familiar with and I can sort of get on with. So I put Arizona Sunshine on. So I played a little bit and I was like, oh man, I love this game. This game's so good. And I played a little bit more and I was like picking up different weapons and, doing the bits that I've done before. But I did the mine, which is the one where you have to use a flashlight and it's all works on the principle of darkness and stuff. It was really well done. The narration makes that game hands down. Obviously, for those of you who have listened to the Game Year 2019 podcast, you'll know where I ranked Arizona Sunshine in my Game of the Year 2019. If you haven't listened to it, go and give it a listen. So I have played a couple of days where I've played VR before putting like Days Gone on. Yesterday I was playing and the batteries in the controllers died, so I took that as, rather than a point where I was like, I'll just swap the batteries, I took it as a point to sort of stop playing. But man, I love that game. It's so well done. It's so good. I've been trying to use different weapons to what I've used previously. I'm sure there was supposed to be an update where you could get two-handed weapons as like weapons that you can carry, but I presume because I was already partway through a game, I would have to start a new game to get that. But like I say, I have played some VR. It has spurred me on to play more VR. Nothing new. I've got a couple of games that I've not played. Stuff that I've still got from like picking stuff up at Christmas. I've got stuff that I've played and not finished. there doesn't seem to be a lot out and about VR wise, so it's good that I've got stuff kind of on the back burner that I can, look at playing. So I'll keep you posted if I manage to get some more VR in. So that's the entertainment stuff. Usual stuff for finishing up is going to be no surprise because I've already mentioned it. I'm still hitting the gym. I'm still, I'm up 5 days a week. I would love to push it out to that 6th day. But 5 days is 5 days. Keeping up with cardio, because of having this cold thing, I've just been doing the distance. I've not really been doing the running side of it, but I'm still putting the cardio under my belt. I've been doing some exercises that I haven't done for a while, doing some like bent over T-bar rows. I've even done some god-awful deadlifts. Nowhere near the weight that I was deadlifting previously, but it's a start, and I'll keep plugging away at that. I've increased all the weight I've been lifting recently. Don't know as far as improvements go. I don't know. As you can probably tell from the start of this podcast, I'm feeling this weird funk. I don't know if I'm getting the results that I want to be getting from going to the gym. And certainly with this the way I feel about the weight loss stuff, it's a bit like, it's not like I'm going to tell you I'm going to stop going to the gym and go back to eating loads of pizza. But I know I need to get the running side of the cardio back. And I need to, I think I need to do a bit of change my weightlifting routine up a bit, so that my body's not getting too used to it. So I think I'll look at those over the next week or so. It'd be nice to be able to breathe properly before running, which is the principle I've been working on. But at this point in time, I presume that that this cold's never going to go. So I should probably just, suck it up and crack on. So yeah, a few things I need to look at changing coming up. So I'll keep you posted with that. That's it. That's it for this week. Until next time, I'm going to say bye. I'll catch you guys later.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Another week gone. Can you believe it? Like I was saying at the start of this, there is a YouTube channel. There are videos. Even if there's not a video, there's usually a lovely picture to look at. It'd be super cool if you could subscribe if you haven't already, and tell your friends, family, people you work with, anybody to give us a little subscribe, little likes, things like that. Share the videos around. All that would be super cool. Everybody jump over to the Cookiecast.com, check us out over there. You can send love through social media, send love through email, so why don't you send us some love? So there we go, that's it for now. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.